why a lot of wealthy people do not help the poor. This is from personal experience. When I bought a 2-family and a single-family home in Baltimore, because as a self-made person, I only have so much money to invest, and those were areas that had cheap enough homes that I could invest. And so I bought these fully renovated, beautiful homes in Baltimore, and I started getting tenants. It took me 6 months to get tenants because the average credit score in that area was sub 500. Hear that again. The average credit score in that area was sub 500. Now, maybe I was using a not so great realtor. Maybe the realtor I worked with just couldn't attract really great tenants, but that's pretty telling. If every single application that comes along has a credit score of under 500. So that's just one point. Side note, side quest. My real point here is finally we got tenants after a long time of waiting and waiting. And by the way, I'm carrying the costs of the home the whole time. So my mortgages aren't being covered. Nothing's being covered. The taxes I'm paying for all of them, waiting for a decent tenant to come across. Then I had no choice because I was literally running out of money that like a good enough candidate would do. So I took on a couple tenants to survive that weren't great, but like beggars can't be choosers. Better to have some money than to have none. So I said, give it a roll. Let's see how it goes. Immediately the first month, 2 out of 3 tenants did not pay rent. So I had to go eviction process. I've never done an eviction before. I had to go to the courthouse. And then at the courthouse, I met a lady, and she was one of my most close confidants and support systems in Baltimore. I met her at the courthouse, and she was like, hey, honey, you're filling out the form wrong. Let me help you. And I'm like, can you please help me? And she helped me do the evictions. And the game is so easy in Baltimore that all you got to do is keep pushing the buck down the line. Every time the sheriff comes, which is like a month and a half after the eviction takes place, because it takes time to get through the court system, all the tenants do, they pay the sheriff leaves, and they get the house for another 6 weeks. So this is a game that they play. And I learned this all firsthand. Meanwhile, I'm almost bankrupt. I'm literally being bankrupted. And then finally, when the evictions finally work and the people finally leave, lo and behold, there's $2,000 to $4,000 worth of damage. One time, tenants painted my entire rooms black.
Listen, it's going the route of buying homes in low cost areas. That's part of the problem. You have to also assume the cost of carrying those mortgages yourself, not to the tune of being bankrupt, to the tune that you can actually comfortably do them. And she's making some great points in here, and there's more to follow on this case. But like, comment, subscribe, hit the notification bell so we don't miss new uploads. There's a lot that she's saying here that I wanted to get to, and she's talking about this is about the language of the poor. But first, she's talking about real estate, so we can do both right now. But one of the things I always advise when I'm talking to new investors is saying you never want to the first rental you buy, the first rental you purchase, right? You never want to need your tenant. If you need them to pay the bill, then who really owns the place? If you're at their mercy, who really owns the place? If they decide that I'm not going to pay, you're stuck. Now you have to come out of your own pocket. And she mentioned they're bankrupting her because she's waiting for this perfect tenant. And the perfect tenant doesn't really exist unless you're talking about my sister or my mom. Outside of that, you're really not that good. But in all seriousness, if you need your tenant to service the debt for the place, then you've overpaid or you're in an area where you really cannot afford it. Doesn't matter how it may turn out, and I think she goes into this later on, but I think she mentioned that she had to create other businesses to pay for that. So, it's cool to say she's very business minded, business savvy, maybe in those other areas. But if you're looking to get into real estate, you're looking to become a landlord or buy and hold, you have to first be cognizant that you got to be able to service this debt on your own. Otherwise, you bought too much house. Secondly, if you're buying in a place like Baltimore, buying in a place where you can afford the place, afford to get the mortgage for the place, and it's a low income area, you should first look at the quality of the tenants in that area. First, one of the things you have to do first is look at your research. You have to do your research in specific areas to say, what is the quality of this neighborhood? Rental markets are usually broken down into A, B, C, D, right? further you don't even want to bother. But some C-class neighborhoods, yeah, it's rough. It's rough. So sometimes new investors make the mistake that they go in, they buy a place and they over renovate. You'll spend $100,000 in renovations, and that gives you how much extra, right? Let me clarify. If you buy a place and one of the units, right? Say you buy a duplex, two places, right? One of them is where you can charge $1,200, for rent per month. But and this is beat up. It's a beat up little, little shack. By beat up, I mean the appliances aren't new, the paint is chipping. We've all seen the pictures, or we've all been in places, depending on how you grew up, where the switch or the socket is simply painted right over, right? Not removed. No, it's just a big lock bump of like actual paint over it. Some of them have seen that. And that's what a place looks like. Sometimes when it's in a downtrodden, underserved, underprivileged community, that's what it looks like. You can go in there, and I've been victim of this. Go in there and make the place look like a Taj Mahal. You can do all this. You can put in $20,000, $30,000 worth of renovations, and you went from charging 1,200 to now 1,300, because that's what the market demands. That's what the market says you can. You can charge whatever you want for your place. You can charge 1,700, 1,800, 3,000. But if the market in the area says this place can survive charging 1,200, you've over corrected, you've over renovated your spot. Now you're in a bigger little pickle there. So these are things you have to keep in mind when you're first looking at a place. Not when you have the money in hand and decide, I'm going to buy here and hope the realtor can work magic. Trying to put the blame on a realtor, said, no, I can show the place, right? It shows how it shows. And the people that come in here that say, I want to live in this zip code, in this neighborhood, there is a through line with them. That's what it is. There's a socioeconomic through line with them. That's who's going to show up for these places. You buy in the middle of the hood, you're going to get tenants that are comfortable living in the hood. That's what it is. Now, you have to know this going in and be prepared for this. So when you get someone in there just because you say, give it a whirl, what do you think is going to happen? You avoid this by never having to put someone in there in the first place because you're going bankrupt. That's what I say. You have to be able not to need your tenant. And that's simple. You actually have the reserves, or your actual other businesses or your other income, your other W-2 can actually sustain the cost of this because you're budgeting and you're keeping things tight where they need to be tight. That's what you should be doing. But she has more to say about this, and I think she talks about the language of the poor in this video that I want to address.
And I had to get painters to paint it back to white. So this is what I'm talking about. Like, I tried. I had one good tenant out of probably like 6 or 7. All of them at some point or the other just like stopped paying the rent. It was the last thing on the priority list. One tenant during COVID, I literally had to beg him to go and apply for assistance. I literally had to remind him, I had to chase him, I had to yell at him. Well, I would never yell at a tenant, but I had to be like nagging him. And finally he did. And he was one of the nice ones. Other people just fully ignore you, or they're just rude and mean. And they threaten you as well. All with the voice in their chest. Full loudness, with all the entitlement you could possibly imagine. So this is why I stopped investing in poor areas. I was just like, I give up. I'm not going to be anyone's savior. I'm not going to come and provide housing. I'm not going to be your punching bag anymore. I'm done. I'm just all set. And this is why a lot of rich people don't try to help people that are a have-not, because they're the one that ends up getting screwed. This is real talk. I'm sorry if you don't like to hear it, but this is really what happens in the real world. I had to start a business just to recover from the financial losses that these tenants caused to me. And they ruined my homes, and I had to constantly fix them. I was their punching bag.
I think this is and it might be a different video, so I'll do that one later. This is one of those things, like, you have to have the right temperament for this. Rich people, this is not about rich people helping. If you think about you buying a house, becoming a landlord, and then people living in there as you are helping them, no, that's a business. You're not helping them, right? This is simply a transaction. It's a business. I'm providing a service. Help would be, I'm letting you live here for free until you get a chance to get on your feet. This is not help. This is just how it's supposed to go, how you're supposed to do things. But more to the point, you need the right temperament if you're going to invest in low income neighborhoods. This is not help; it's a strategy. The rich people own a lot of these a lot of these buildings, especially in New York. A lot of these homes, they're owned by rich people. They're not looking as a favor. I think her language is sort of screwed up in the sense, thinking that I'm doing you some sort of favor, that me coming in and buying this and I'm a punching bag. No, you invested in a neighborhood that you didn't have the temperament for. That's what it is, right? It's there's a reason why the house is the unit or the duplex is affordable like it is, because it's a rough neighborhood. It's going to be rough for you to get that money. Some people, their entire portfolios is made up of low income houses. For the most part, yeah, you may run into trouble, but what I recommend, again, this is, I like the idea of volume. Volume insulates you from some of your tenants not paying. When she's saying she had 6, 7 tenants and one of them didn't pay, right? But what if you have 40, 50 tenants, right? And you get enough, if more than, if half of them don't pay, you can still service the mortgages. You may not take a profit, but you can still exist going from the one day to the next, right? So there's strategies involved in doing this. And if you'd like to hear content like that, let me know down in the comments. If you see a video right here on the screen that you're interested in, go ahead, take a look. And if you're still listening to my voice right now, you haven't, come on, come on, come on, come on, come on. Hit the subscribe button. I'll see you guys in the next one.